Hello everybody, my name is Roman Stadelmeier, and this time I'm going to show you how to create a custom report in System Center Service Manager for hardware assets. So finally, what you're gonna probably want to have is something like this. So you have a custom asset report here, and if you click on Run Report, the report is generated, and it is a little bit small here, but finally you see an asset list, organization, the owner of the asset name, asset tag, serial number, nodes, cost. So properties from the hardware asset itself and properties from related objects as organization and other stuff. So how do we get that? First of all, it's extremely important that the data warehouse is working correctly. So your Provance management packs should be synchronized to the data warehouse. So it should look like something like this. So nothing with not completed, so everything should be okay here. And the data warehouse jobs should be running. So finally, to see if it's really the data warehouse is that the load job, which is the latest one, is working, and you see on the run state that it has been run through the last hours. So if that is working, you will see a reporting tab here and see the default reports, and in IT asset management there are a couple of default reports. You might want to extend them, and how to do it will be shown now. So first of all, we need the report designer, which is configured in the SQL Server reporting services. And if you configure that, you will see all the folders here for the standard reports. And we've created a new folder. Sorry, this is in German. I will explain it in English. This is a new folder, and this was called Custom Asset Reports. And within that folder, I generated a new report. So this custom asset report now, if I click on it, it will open, and it will show the same report as you just saw, which we can do now shortly, so that you know this is exactly the same. So the System Center Service Manager console is just opening what we have configured here. But how we configure it, that's the big question. So I will go back to the go back to this folder here, and if we don't click on it, so if we click on this property sheet here, we will get the option to work on the report. And the first thing which is important is which data do we want to show. So while this report builder is loading, we have to know that we're not working in the Service Manager CMDB, we're working in the data warehouse, and there are a couple of databases, and we need to dig out the data of these databases. So the SQL Server Reporting Services report builder gives us the option as a WinWord or Excel designer. We can change values here and enter tabs and that stuff, which is all easy, but the question is, where do this data here come from? And it comes from a data set. So we have defined this data set, and the properties of this set is it goes to the data mart and queries data out of this database. And what's exactly happening inside will be explained now. So to do that is we open a SQL Server management client. That's the easiest thing to do. And I will start from scratch. So we have our databases here in the order of being deployed or data being walked through. First is the staging and config database, then the repository is built, and then the data mart is our choice. You can also get the data from Service Manager, but you know, the grooming jobs might delete it, and so best is always get the data mart data here. So what are we? What do we have there? There are tables, there are views, and if we walk into these tables, what we are searching for is hardware assets. And there are two types of tables basically: dimensions or views, so dimensions and facts. Dimensions are the objects. So if we open that hardware asset dim view here and click on columns, we see all the properties of the hardware object, of this hardware asset, with the dates, with the properties from the first form, and so on. Yeah, I think simply let's walk through it. So if we, for example, do a simple select all, we get a bunch of columns here with display name in a mobile phone, a firewall, servers, free hardware assets. So how does that look like in the console? Let's go walk back here to the source data. So if we look at all hardware assets, there are predefined tags which have nothing than the asset tag and already deployed assets. So all of this information is stored in the dimension view. So to define our data set, we need to generate a SQL query which gets the correct information out of this table or view. So let's do a new query, and let's do a very simple one. We want to just have the display name, serial number, and cost, and we do aliases on it. So let's do the full one. So as an explanation, we are selecting from hardware asset dim view, which is exactly this view, and we define this as an alias number A, so we don't have to type always hardware asset dim view in front of these properties here. We don't want to see deleted objects, and we order it by asset name. So if we fire up that query now, we will just get the display name, asset tag, serial number, nodes, and costs from this table. Okay, that was an easy one, but that's fair not enough, because we now want probably, for example, know who is the owner of this asset. We don't have the information here, but what we have is we have a fact view called hardware asset owner fact view, and this fact view links the hardware asset owner table and the hardware asset dim view. So in the fact view itself, you will just see create date, hardware asset dim key, and the owner own system user dim key. So it is basically linking these two keys with each other, and then the two views, hardware asset and hardware asset owner by system user, are linked together. And how this is done is in a predefined view, or sorry, predefined SQL query here, which looks like this. So what we're doing here, that's the same as before: hardware asset, display name, tag, serial number, nodes, costs. But now we have a new alias, which is the system user dim view. So in the system user dim view, which is down here, we get a couple of columns, and there is, for example, display name, business phone, first name, last name, and all that stuff. So we can use that data now in our query, and these two lines here link these together. So what does the left outer join now mean? I'll do a simple example. If I execute that, I get all my assets, nevertheless, if there is an owner, yes or not. because I said left outer join, which could also be a left join simply, because that's the same query. And that means everything which is left of this join, in this case our hardware asset dim view, will be shown nevertheless if there is something on the right side. So if we change that here, we only now see assets which have an owner. So if there is something on the right side, don't be afraid. These three devices here have owners, but they don't have a display name. So they don't have first name and last name. So there are some, just to check, this device here has a group as owner and they have no first name, last name. So back to our SQL query, we changed that again to left, linking these together, and now we get our asset name, tag, serial number, nodes, kind of stuff, plus first name and last name of the owner. Okay, so now we might want to have the organization of these assets. So there is a hardware asset organization fact view. So this is the link between the asset and the organization, and the organization itself is in a dim view. So if I check the columns of the organization, there is description and type and all the data you can enter there. So we again need to link the asset over the fact to the dim view. And this looks very similar than our first query here. We just use these fact table here, generate a new alias D, then use the dim key of the hardware asset from alias B, and then link these two together, hardware asset dim key. And we don't want to have deleted ones, and generate a new alias here with organization dim view E, and on this key which is in the fact table. And that allows us to use now all the properties from this alias organization dim view, which is here, and one of the aliases of the properties is display name. So if we execute that, we get an error. That's cool. That should not happen. Do it again. Okay, I just was I was highlighting that one, so it assumed I want to just execute this one. No, the full query shows us organization, and as we do a left outer join, we will get all the assets nevertheless if they have an organization or not. So now we want additionally the location and the cost center and the type and the username, and our final query with all this information inside it is this one. Basically, the idea is always the same. We get the fact view and then link it to a dimension as the cost center or the user ID, for example. So if we execute this query now, we get all the data from the data mart table. So, okay, good. So if you have designed your query, you can copy and paste it into your dataset query. Please test it before, and then you can simply use it. So this now means we have all these fields, all the properties we have in the query are available as fields, and these fields can now be used in that list here. So now you can start designing your report, put in all the names and the column width and all that stuff within your report. use the appropriate fields, and if you save that, you will get the report as set. You can test it here, so in execution, and you see the report we just had before, so you can adjust things like column width and so on. And report designer now. Okay, so now we can close this report, and it allows you to save that in an RDL file. In the blog entry you will see a report designer language file which you can simply upload here with a file upload, and you will have this custom asset report in your SSRS and simply use it immediately. So if that report is working here, it also shows up in the reporting pane of your Service Manager console, and you can start firing it from your console, and your users can use it. Okay, I hope you get a little insight and more ideas how to use custom reporting with Provance and Service Manager, and please test the file. Hope you like it. Bye.